Okay, thank you all for joining us on the last of this series of explanation and a deeper understanding behind the prayers of the high holidays. And you guys feel free to. I'm going to mute you all, but feel free to have your cameras on if you want. You don't have to. And if you have any questions, as always. You can write it in the box in the chat, and people that are watching on Facebook Live, you can write it on the chat, and then after the class, I'll open up for questions to everyone. So I want to home in on a couple of things on the Mussaf prayer. So last week we talked about it wasn't Monday night, but we talked about the V'chein Tein Pachtacha, which is on Rosh Hashanah, and it's on Yom Kipper. Right, and we elaborated on that prayer, and then on Rosh Hashanah, the second day, we spoke at the end of that prayer. We spoke about what does it mean, right? What does it mean that we all will unite together? And I really don't want to go back into that so much because there's so much to talk about on the Mussaf of Yom Kippur, right? But I just would do a quick recap, a very important quick recap on what we spoke about. And I'll switch it around. I'll speak first about what we spoke about on Rosh Hashanah, and then I'll speak about what we spoke about in the class beforehand. And the idea is like this. The idea is that they will all be one. We all will gather together. Aguda means a unit. Aguda means that we're all together. How is it possible that everybody will be united together? How is it possible that we will all be one? And it's not talking about just the Jewish people. It's talking about everybody. It's talking about the Iran. It's talking about Iraq. It's talking about Russia. It's talking about United States and Israel and everywhere. How is it possible that we're all going to be together? And so we explained the only way that happens is when you have V'chein Tein Pachtacha, when God will put His awe on the world. When do we have the level that God will put His awe on the world? That'll be the end of days. At the end of days, when God will reveal Himself and remove the cloak of that's covering and not allowing us to see clearly, but sort of we have fogged glasses of our relationship with God and our relationship with ourselves and God. But when that fog removes itself and when we're able to unite together in the glory and in the kingship of God, then everybody will fall away. I just want to add something. Right, I learned today in Daf Yomi. Barry, you might have learned it today also. Right, we learned today in Daf Yomi that the Talmud tells us that Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, can't come on Friday. Right? Why can't he come on Friday? Because people are very busy. Right? They're busy for Shabbos and this and that, and you think that it's a thing. It's like, okay, what are you so busy with? Look, Elijah the prophet can come on Friday. Right? Like Friday's a busy day. Let's be realistic. Even the Talmud knows that. Even Elijah knows not to mess with the Jewish family, right, on Friday, right? But say the commentaries, the Talmud says that the Mashiach could come on Friday. And the commentaries ask, why could the Mashiach come on Friday? Right? What, the Jewish people are not busy? So it says the commentaries, right, because when the Mashiach comes, there will be no more troubles and no more difficulties from all the nations of the world. All the nations of the world will see the glory of God. And they'll all want to be united, and the Jewish people have all the help they need. Because everybody says, we want to be part of the mitzvah of Shabbos. Of course we want to be part of the mitzvah of Shabbos. Right? And therefore, right, they'll have all the help that they'll need. And therefore, it's not a problem, right, that they're busy in Erev Shabbos because they'll have extra help. When Elijah the prophet comes, not yet. Right? When the Mashiach comes, right, so you just see what it means. Right? We just had it today in the Daf Yomi. What it means, Aguda Akash, one unit, means to say that everybody will be helping and wanting to have a relationship with God. That all we have is when we have the Tein Pachtacha. So we try to connect. The more we put the glory of God upon us, the more we recognize, and that's what we talked about a little bit, the more we recognize that our service, what we do, our relationship has to be a relationship not just for ourselves, not just to make ourselves feel better or make ourselves feel more spiritual. And it's to have a relationship with Hashem. Then we won't start stepping on other people's toes. Then we'll make sure that even our Judaism, our spirituality will be also, because we're all here together. We're all here to build our relationship with God and build our relationship with our Father in heaven. Right, so it's a very important thing to remember, right, and during the 10 days of repentance for sure. Right, we have to make sure that we reflect on this concept, right, that we're all trying to build a relationship with Hashem. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a relationship with Hashem, and all the things we do when we wash the Til Sedayim, when we make kamot, when we blow the shofar, when we eat matzah, when we learn a patch of Talmud, it's a way of building a relationship with Hashem. Yes, of course, you feel good about it. And yes, you feel spiritual. Or you go, it's so hard. Right? Whatever it is, right? You have to remind yourself, right, that it's building a relationship with Hashem. And that's something that's very important. And one of the things that we spoke about in the previous content, that's also connected to Yom Kippur, as part of the Amidah, the Shemona Esrei that we say during the Yom Kippur. So I want to home in on a couple of things. Talk about more of a general thing, and then go practical into some of the things of what's it called again, of the Amidah. So the Amidah of Yom Kippur is very strange, and I'm going to put it straight out that way. It's a little strange. Rosh Hashanah, right? Today, right, on a regular weekday. What's the repetition of the Amidah? The repetition is basically the same thing we say in our own private Amidah, right? That's basically what the repetition is. On Rosh Hashanah, it also mimics what we say privately. We add in a couple of things, right? We add in the Sanatokev, we add in Kol Maminim, we add in a couple of different things. But basically, we're repeating over, right? The bulk of the repetition is repeating over, what we said in Amidah. Yeah, the stuff is very long. We have Aleinu, we have Shofar, we have this, and we have that. But it's basically, the repetition is basically the same thing. The Mussaf repetition of Yom Kippur is off the chart. Totally another. It's, of course, it repeats over what we say in our Amidah, but it adds in sections that have nothing to do with our Amidah. And what's the main section that it adds in? It says the Sanatokev, of course. It is the avoda of the Kohen Gadol. The avoda of the Kohen Gadol. I don't want to talk about the avoda of the Kohen Gadol a little bit. The service that the Kohen Gadol does on Yom Kippur. So it goes through the whole scenario, right? And the Kohanim, right? And you can find it if you have a Mox in front of you. It's on page 562. If not, that's fine. And I'll repeat everything and read everything, right? And it's in a bunch of different places. 560. Also, it really starts. It starts on page. The first time it's on page 560, right? So it says, "Kach hu haya omer," and this is what he used to say, right? Who the Kohen Gadol, Ana Hashem, please God, Chatasi avishi b'shati lefanecha, right? I've sinned, I've ever erred, right? I've transgressed in front of you, me and my household, right? Please God, forgive us for our sins, right? And then, right, as it says in the book of Moshe, then this day is a day that God will forgive you from all of the sins. So the Kohen Gadol, and he says this over three times. Page 560 the first time, page 562 the second time, and then again he says it, right, on page 566. Right? So he says it over three times. And this is mimicking the service of the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol actually said this. Right? So what's he saying? Why does he have to repeat it over so many times? Right? And why is this something that he's bolting out to everybody? Kach hu hayomer, this is what he used to say, and he used to say it in front of anybody. He didn't privately to himself. So what's with this prayer? Why are we? And second of all, why are we even repeating over all the avoda, the service that the Kohen did? Right. So as we spoke about in Rosh Hashanah, right, the Mussaf prayer. Right, the Mussaf prayer primarily speaks about the avoda, the service, right, of what they did in the temple. Right, that's primarily, and therefore we add in about the services. So the Mussaf of Yom Kippur also we have to talk about the service that they did in the temple. But the service of the temple in Yom Kippur was totally different. It wasn't just bringing one sacrifice or two sacrifices, right? The service on Yom Kippur, right, was a whole show, was a whole production, right? It was literally a whole production. So we're repeating over the production that happened, right, during that time. So I want to point out something very interesting. If you look at each one, right, it's a little slightly different. The first time the Kohen Gadol says it, and this is very important, my friends, right? Very important. And it says, "Kachem ana Hashem chatasi," I sin, right? Uvnei beisi, and my household. The second time he says it, he adds in something. He says, "Pesati lefanecha ani uveisi uvnei Aaron am kadshecha." The children of Aaron, and your holy nation, means to say they were made holier, they're the priests. And then the third time that he says it, and guys, we spoke about this in Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah, we spoke about this in the classes, we have to be very careful of looking at the words. We have to read the words, not just zoom through it. We have to realize that the difference of each time, there's a reason for it. Now look at the third time, and I'm going to read it inside. He says, "Kach hayomer," again, "An Hashem, please God, chatasi, avisi, pasati lefanecha, amcha beis Yisrael." your nation of Israel. He doesn't mention him, doesn't mention the Kahan. He mentions the people of Israel. Right? And then he says, the Jewish people. So we answered question number one. Guys, it's mind-boggling. I know myself, right? The first time I noticed this, it was probably, I don't know, I must have been like 20 or 21 years old. Right? And of course I've read it and I knew it, but when I focused on it the first time, right, I was like, I've been saying this for like 20 years already, right? And like I never really honed in on it. It's so important to home in on the words that we say. So the first time he just speaks about himself. The second time he speaks about himself and Bnei Aaron and the children of Aaron. And the third time he doesn't speak about himself at all. And the third time he speaks about the children of Israel. So we answered why the three, right? Why is he repeating it over? He's talking about different people. But we have to understand the order and the significance of the order. And we have to understand the difference between the first one and the second one. The second one, he's also talking about himself. Right? We said, Ana Hashem, right? He said, Chatasi, I sin, right? Ani uvesi, my household, Bnei Aaron, and my household. See, he's including himself, but then he adds in the children of Aaron. Okay. The last one makes sense. He doesn't include himself, doesn't include Aaron. He's just talking about the Jewish people. So if the second one would have been, Chatu Bnei Aaron, the children of Aaron, the priests, okay, they're in their own category. I hear it. Why does he say, Ani uvesi, I am my household, right? When he already said himself the first time, when he didn't mention the children of Aaron. All right, you hear? We're using the thumb, right? Why is he separating it, and why is he splitting it? Right? That's a very important question, right? To reflect on. So I want to tell you guys something very important, right? When we ask for forgiveness, right? When we're speaking about our mistakes, we have to really think about what we're saying. First and foremost, we have to look internally in ourselves. Myself. The commentaries explain that there's really a deeper thing going on over here. It's different parts of a human being, different things of a human being, right? When I want to start asking for forgiveness, when I want to start reflecting and thinking about what I'm saying, I first have to look internally and say, hey, my neshama, ani. The ani. Who is the ani? Internally, me, right? Ana Hashem, chatasi, pesati lefnecha, ani, me. Means internally, myself. Just me and you, God. Let's have it out. And then basically my household means to say, just my actions, right? There's different parts to the person. So at first he's talking about himself. He's talking internally. He's saying, hey, let me reflect internally and realize that I have to first look inside of myself before I start looking at other people. Before I even start looking at my relationship with other people. Where is Ani? Where am I holding? And basically we know that the soul has different parts. Right, the outer part is called the bias. The outer part is called the thing that's holding the soul. What is my relationship? What's my soul's relationship with the physical world? How am I handling this? How am I working this? The first time he goes and he speaks about personally, it's a personal prayer, and of course it's household, but it's not necessarily referring to really his household. It means to say how he's dealing with his household, how he's dealing with the things around him. Then the second time he goes ahead and he includes Bnei Aaron, the children of Aaron. Why only the children of Aaron? Why are the Levites? Right? Why are they? Okay, so the priest or his tribe. Like, hello, we don't really find any other time that children of Aaron are put out, singled, without singling all three groups, right? It should have singled out the Levites, right? They're also singled out. But if we're not singling out the Levites and creating a difference, then the children of Aaron are all part of the Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people. That's why we single out the children of Aaron. So he adds in a very important thing, Am Kadashecha, your holy nation. Says a commentator, the second thing he's concerned about, the second thing he starts reflecting on is his relationship with Kedusha, holiness. We say in the Torah, and the name of the parsha is called Kedoshim. It says, Kedoshim to you should be holy. There's a concept of being holy. What does holiness mean? What does it mean, holiness? I do a mitzvah, I eat my matzah, I blow shofar, I make a blessing. What is holiness? Oh, he's a holy Jew. Right? Was he have like glowing from his head? Yes, some great people. It says Moshe had a light coming out of him. Well, how do we relate to holiness? Well, we go to Tish. Right? We pray a little extra. We feel holier. We do a mitzvah. We go to Levaya. We help someone out. What is holiness? So we have a very commercialized, generally, of course, not talking to any individual, but there's a commercialized concept of holiness, a Christianized concept of holiness that the Jewish people, of course, we get affected by our surroundings. And when we think about holiness, we think about someone on a mountaintop, meditating. We think about someone that's been fasting for 500 days, right? Today we just fasted, right? I'm holy, I fasted today, right? It's a mitzvah, I'm supposed to fast, right? It's a mitzvah to fast, if you can, right? If one can fast, right? It's not the level of Tisha B'Av or Kipper, of course, but if one can fast, one's supposed to fast. Am I holy because I fasted? Oh, but you have to fast for 5 days straight. What's holiness? So the context explained that holiness, kedusha, and on Yom Kippur we tried to strive to be holy. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute. I want to hone in on the concept of holiness. What is holiness? Holiness is not something that's taboo. Holiness is like, no, holiness is when you make a bracha on your food. Holiness is when you go ahead and give charity. Holiness is when you leave the door open for someone that's walking through. You say good morning to someone. That's all part of holiness. Holiness is when kadesh atzmecha b'muterlach. That's the Nachmani's ways of talking. It says kadesh atzmecha b'muterlach. Sanctify things which are muterlach, means you're permitted. You don't have to do it. So yes, you have to make a blessing on the food, but how do you do it? Are you going to think about the words? You fulfill your obligation. You go, do you understand what I said? Probably not, right? But you go, or you go, right? Okay, you heard me, and I said it. But now, if I go ahead and put a little kavanah, and I think about it, I say, Baruch, Atah Hashem, okay, wow, right, God, thank you for this fruit, this miracle. That's holiness right there. You don't have to dunk yourself in the mikvah 500 times, right? You don't have to, think that you're fasting forever and be on a mountaintop. Holiness is within our grasp. Holiness is when you do something that you're not necessarily obligated to do, but you do it because you want to build a relationship with Hashem. There's a difference between the thing that you're obligated to do. Of course, you're building a relationship with Hashem, but you're doing it also because you're obligated to do it. So there's a little lack in the relationship with Hashem because you're obligated to do it. But when you do, even when doing that action, but you're putting kavanah, you're putting thought into it. Mutalach, what you permitted, means to say you're not obligated. So you decide to use your brain, your seichel, and say, I want to think about what I'm saying. I'm going to hold open the door for someone. I don't have to open up the door for someone, but it's a mitzvah. It's a kiddush Hashem. It's sanctifying God's name. Giving a little extra charity, doing the mitzvot with thought, or doing something that you're doing a little more. That's kedusha. That's holiness. And, excuse me. Say the commentaries, that's the second thing that the Kohen Gadol is talking about. When we repeat it, we say it also. We say it first and the Chazan repeats it. Right? We go, Kaka Yomer, right? We're supposed to say it along with the Chazan. Right? Right? It says here in our school, the congregation recites along. Right? In an undertone. We say it along with the Chazan. We're supposed to say it along. Not only the Chazan says, we're supposed to say it along with them also. So when we're thinking about the second paragraph, we're thinking about not only what am I doing right or wrong. Chatasi ani, me, means to say my actions, what I'm doing. But now we have to start thinking about our actions. How am I stepping up the game a little bit? Right? Am I putting a little thought into my actions? Have I thought about, and each person on their own level, right? Have I thought about maybe taking something on that will make me a little more holy and closer to God? Something that I've been, thinking about or haven't thought about. There's so many things. We spoke about this also on Rosh Hashanah, that we spoke about this in the lunch and learn, and also that we become complacent. And I talked a little about this morning in the morning minute. And we become complacent in the levels that we are. And I'm talking to myself. I'm at fault at this just like anybody else. We get comfortable in the level that we are. We've grown, and it's unbelievable. People that have become more religious in their lives, I'm in awe of them. I really am. I'm in awe. People that were not so much about before and now are so much about. People that are keeping kosher, right? People that are learning more. They were so much about, but now they're doing it more. Right? Wherever you are, I'm in awe of these people that have transformed their lives. But it doesn't stop there. You cannot become complacent. It doesn't take away from what you have done. But you have to start thinking and looking, how can I grow more? How can I take that next step? How can I add more kedusha to my life? How can I go ahead and say, you know what? Let me look at what I'm doing on Shabbat. Maybe I've missed something. Maybe I don't realize that you're not allowed to use this tool. Or maybe I don't realize how to warm up my food. Right? I know I learned it, but maybe I have to review it. Maybe I have to reflect. Maybe I don't remember all the blessings. Maybe I'm just making some, and it's good. I'm making a shahakal and everything. I was told that's the easy way out. Now that I've become more learned, let me learn about the individual blessings. Maybe to start reflecting, of how I present myself in public. Right? Yes, but now there's something new to grow in. Oh, it's hard. It's hot. Of course. But there's a concept. We spoke about this in another class. There's a concept of modesty. We spoke about the concept of that, the whole idea of the tzitzis. We spoke about this Wednesday morning. And the whole idea of the tzitzis is to remind us that our clothes mean something. The way we present ourselves in our clothes means something. And that's why God, right, when they ate from the Eitz Hadas, they realized they were naked because they now had the intuition. They ate from the Eitz Hadas. They got this intuition of the difference of them and animals. Are we different? Animals don't have clothes. And some people dress their animals up. And animals naturally don't have clothes. Right? So are we different than man? And they became sort of embarrassed. We want to be more like man, not like animal. So God gave them clothes. And that's the whole idea of tzitzis. Some of the commentaries there of Samson and followers, and also others. And we realize that we're sanctifying our clothes. Clothes mean something. So whatever it is, there's so many different ways that we could make ourselves more kadosh. So when we learn this, when we read this together with the Chazan, the abode of Yom Kippur, when we read this together with the Chazan, let's reflect and think about Am Kadoshecha, your holy nation, means the Kahanim went above and beyond. The Kahanim stood up and said, we will serve God in the temple. They didn't have to. The Levites, who the Kahanim come from, and Aaron, right, was there at forefront. They went ahead and they did something that beyond what they had to do. So we have to reflect internally, how are we being a little more kadosh? Am Kadoshecha, of course it means literal. But on a deeper level, say the commentaries, it's referring to us. We have to look, how are we being Am Kadoshecha? How are we being more spiritual, more kadosh? That's something that we have to look at. And then the third one, excuse me, when we speak about Beis Yisrael, Fnecha Amcha Beis Yisrael, you're Jewish people, I'd say the commentaries that right, that is referred to, right, that is referred to our relationship with everybody. And it's not necessarily in a specific order, not saying one's more important than the other, but I will explain why it's in this specific order in a minute. Right? But it's B'nai Yisrael, I mean to say, how is my relationship with other people? How am I interacting? How's my Ben Adam L'Chaveiro? I'm B'nai Yisrael, all the Jewish people. So why is it in this specific order? So the commentaries explain that we have to be very careful. Ben Adam L'Chaveiro is very important. The temple was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, because of basal hatred. But we also have to be very careful to make sure that our Ben Adam L'Chaveiro is still within Ben Adam L'Makom, with the power of Kedusha. We shouldn't get sidetracked by Ben Adam L'Chaveiro, and I know it sounds harsh, sidetracked, but we can't get off track with our Ben Adam L'Chaveiro and lose our Kedusha, lose our holiness. We also can't get caught up in Kedusha and lose our Ben Adam L'Chaveiro. Right? Famous example that Talmud gives is someone that's running to go kiss a Sefer Torah, right? And he steps on 20 people's legs and toes, right? He's getting no reward by kissing the Sefer Torah, right? He's doing lacking Ben Adam L'Chaveiro. He's stepping on people's toes. So that we understand. We also have to be very careful not to lose ourselves in Ben Adam L'Chaveiro and lose our Ben Adam L'Makom. And what does that mean? I'm not going to give you any individual, I'm not going to give any specific examples, but I'm talking about a concept. The concept is that sometimes we feel that we have to say, oh, well, I have to learn to love your neighbor as yourself. Excuse me. And I apologize for my cold. Right? Oh, that's the greatest thing it is, because but it doesn't mean to say that it makes us justify things that are against the Torah specifically. I could love someone, but by loving someone, I don't have to say that what they're doing is right. I love my kids. I do. Right? On record, guys. Kids, it's on record. I love you guys. Right? I love my kids. I love my kids. But I still tell my kids when they're doing something wrong and I punish them. Just because I love them doesn't mean to say that I'm going to justify everything that they're doing. So just because we have a mitzvah of loving everybody, we have to be Ben Adam L'Chaveiro and help people out, and we can't judge people. That's all part of Ben Adam L'Chaveiro. Doesn't mean to say that now we have to say that what they're doing is right when it's against the Torah. So if someone who's doing something against the Torah, and there's many examples, and I'm sure there's many examples that are going through your head, and they're all correct. Someone's doing something that doesn't mean to say that the person is bad, but they're doing something that's against the Torah. It's up to God to decide who's good and who's bad. I don't know. I just know what I have to do. I have to know what I have to teach other people to do. I have to know that if something's wrong, I have to say it's wrong. God has many calculations. He knows what challenges he gives people. He knows what situation he puts people in. And God puts that all in part of his judgment. But it doesn't mean to say that I have to now say that that's the right thing. 1 + 1 is not 3. So if you guys tell me, hey, Rabbi, I think 1 + 1 is 3. I said, I love you guys. You're awesome, but you're wrong. I'll maybe say it a little nicer. Right? But 1 + 1 is not 3. 1 + 1 is 2. But be kind to people. Oh, he's gonna feel bad. He's gonna be insulted. I'm sorry. I'll say it in the nicest way. But 1 + 1 is not 3. So we have to be very careful to make sure that our Ben Adam lechavero doesn't interfere with our ben adam l'makom. And therefore, say the commentaries that based on the explanation that we gave, that's why it's in this order. First, we have looking internally into ourselves, ben adam l'chavero, ben adam l'makom, between man and God, and we say that's a practical laws, yes and no. Then the concept of kedusha, realizing that we have to make sure that we live our lives with a little more holiness, which is also ben adam l'makom. And then we speak about ben adam l'chavero, not saying that ben adam l'chavero is any less important, God forbid, but you have to make sure that you don't lose ben adam l'makom through ben adam l'chavero. And therefore, that's the order that it's in. So that's one part of the avoda, right? One part of the avoda of the prayer of the Kohen Gadol, and it goes on. We don't have time. I apologize, right? It's now it's getting late, and there's so much to talk about. We only have one class, right? But I want to talk about. I just want to very quickly sort of give a structure for those that might not come to shul, and even those that are coming to shul. It's important to have a structure, right? After the avoda, right? After the avoda, then we start doing slichot. And right now, every morning we're doing slichot. Right? We start doing slichot, and we say different slichot, different paragraphs, and each synagogue says more or less. This, excuse me, this year we might say a little less because of COVID. We've cut out some stuff from shul, right? But we say different slichot. There's one very powerful slichot that I just want to mention, right? Not go too much into detail on it. One very powerful slichot, right? And that is, we say it on Rosh Hashanah also. We say it on Tisha B'Av also. Right, and that is the slichot of talking about the 10 martyrs. 10 martyrs. And on Yom Kippur, we also speak about the 10 martyrs. And it goes to the story, right, of how each one was killed with a terrible kind of death. Right, Lisa Mishun, as it says, a strange death, the skin being peeled off and being burnt alive. It's terrible. They're really terrible. Right. But we speak about this because we have a concept that the martyr, the tzaddikim, when they're killed, and anybody that's killed for the sake of heaven we use it as a source. We use it as a help for our merit. We say, hey, God, we're putting in our chips right now, right? Every Yom Kippur we have the same chips, right? But we're putting in our chips, right? Sort of collectively as a group. So we go through the 10 martyrs. I want to home in on one verse that's here, and if I remember correctly, this is not in the one here and the one in Tisha B'Av slightly different. Right? The basic story is the same, but it's slightly different. And over here it says, yeah. So in the Kipper one, it says like this: after the killing, right, of the two great rabbis, right? After the killing of the two great rabbis, right? It says like this. It says that. 1 second. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So Sarfei Mala, page 590. If you have a master in front of you, page 590. So the second paragraph in 590. Sarfei Mala, the angels of heaven, but Sarfei are a higher level of angel. Right? What do I know about angels? But I do know that the Sfarim HaKadoshim, the holy books tell us that Sarfei is sort of angels are with more in the inner group of angels, whatever that means. Salku B'Mar, they scream out in the heavens. Zu Torah, Zu Schara. Is this the Torah? Is this the reward? Right? Ote Kishala Ara, and skip a little bit. Right? A heavenly voice, right? Basically they're screaming, hey, what's going on, God? These are the righteous people. Why are you doing this to them? And there's a cry out that we've cried out throughout history. Right? Look at all these righteous people. Look at all these people, these little kids that are being killed. Holocaust, pogroms, inquisitions, suicide bombers. Zeus Torah, Zeus Chara. A heavenly voice answer from the heavens. If I hear one more call out, I'm warning you guys. If I hear one more thing, I'm going to turn the world back to water. The Tov, I'll turn it back to the beginning of the creation to nothing. Right? This is a decree from the heavens. Accept it. Right? Accept it. What kind of answer is this? God was feeling bullied. Right? So he said, hey, guys, I have the power to turn this back into water, into nothing. So quiet. What's going on over here? So the commentaries explain something very powerful, and it's a great thought to think about over Yom Kippur, right? And especially during these days. Say the commentaries that, and we'll end with this idea. It's starting to get late, and thank you guys for staying on. It's already 9:15, right? Say the commentaries that what was God? What were they saying? They say, God, what's going on here? When we see the justice, right? They learn Torah, they get this. Okay, so they're paying for the punishment of their ancestors. Like, really, how's this work? What's going on over here? So God told them, Gzera himo fanai. It's a decree in front of you. You couldn't just stop there. What, the angels went to still and argue? They know it's a decree from God. So they would have said, no, God, we don't like this decree. Right? Couldn't stop there. Why do you have to say I would have to turn the world back? So the answer the commentaries give, one second, sorry. I'm really sorry about this. Right? The answer the commentaries give is based on a passage in Talmud and Tractate Times. The Talmud tells us a story of a great rabbi that was very poor. Literally, he had nothing, right? And he was ill, and he was sick, and he was about to die, right? And it's sort of, he was hovering between here and there, right? And he came up to base, like sort of, he wasn't dead yet. He was still sort of alive, but his neshama, his soul was up in heaven. Whatever this means is a Kabbalistic concepts beyond the scope of my knowledge, right? I can just repeat what the Talmud tells us, right? The important lesson we're going to get out of it. The Talmud says that he asked God, hey, God, can you give me a better life? Like, all I'm asking for is a piece of bread every day. Like, I don't need much. Like, I'm not asking for a Cadillac, you know. Like, I'm not asking for anything big. I was asking for a loaf of bread and a jug of water. Like, that's all I need. A roof over my head. All right, it could be a straw roof. I'm not asking for much. Right, but God, could you? So God told him, Chanina Beni, I think it was Chanina. Chanina Beni, I could. But for me to be able to do that, I have to start the world over again. I have to start the whole world over again. He says, okay. I guess life is really tough. He says, okay. He says, you'll do that for me? He said, yeah, I'll do it for you. All right? You're dear to me. He says, but is it guaranteed that when you start the world all over again, I'll have a better life? He said, no, it's not guaranteed. When I start the world, we'll have to see where you fit in again. So he said, okay, forget it. Just leave the way it is. It's true. Thank God. Right? Otherwise, I don't know if we'd be around. Right? But whatever the story means, right? It's a deep Kabbalistic story. But the commentaries explain, and this is what God was telling the angels, that there's a system in the world from the creation of the world of why certain things have to happen. And there's a thread going along, right? Along the universe and around the timeline of life, of why certain things happen this way. And of course, it doesn't go against our free will because God gives us choices to choose to go this way, that way. And there's outcomes that based on that, it's all intertwined, God's master plan. And today's class is not about free will. We spoke about that on the second day of Rosh Hashanah a little bit, right? And that question we didn't home in specifically on. But God is telling the angels, it's Xer, and I know you would accept that, but I'm giving you the explanation. That if you want me to stop, I'll have to turn the world. I'm not punishing you. I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you why this has to be. Because this has been decreed from the beginning of creation. If you want me to stop, I'll have to start the world all over again. Do you guys want that? Everything that has happened, everything that's going to happen, there's a master plan. There's a master plan. And we don't know all the details. We don't know why things happen this way, why things happen that way. The example I once heard, and it's actually I think it's the Derech Hashem, right? The author Chaim Luzzatto, right, who wrote the Derech Hashem. He also wrote the Path of the Righteous. He wrote a lot of fascinating. The Italian rabbi that lived around the 1500s, 1600s, right? He gives an explanation. He said, imagine you walk in. He was talking about in Rome or whatever it is, right? Based in that con, that was the cultural place, right? And he says you see someone painting, and you see he has this nice painting, and he has flowers, and he has a house, and he has a lot of different colors. And all of a sudden he's taking black ink, and you see him taking black ink, and he throws it at his painting. He said, "What are you doing? You're ruining the painting. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're ruining the painting." He says, chill, buddy. Wait around a little bit. Right? Pull up a chair. Right? I'll be a little while. Relax. Take a walk. Come back. Comes back, or he waits around and he sees he moves his paint this way, and then he puts in a little more that way, and then he puts a little more color. And then after the whole painting's done, that black actually makes the whole painting look the most beautiful because it now gave a surreal look of a cloudy day, right? And that black allowed a little smoke coming out of the chimney, right? And the flowers now have a little tint to it because it's a cloudy day, and it makes it look so real. And I'm no painter, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just repeating over stuff, right? Because I don't know painting. But I do know that if we just look at one action, one time, one thing, it's black. What are you doing? You're ruining the painting. But if you look at the whole scope of the painting from beginning to end, that black is beautiful. Right? That color that looked like it was ruining the picture, whatever color that is, you splash it on, it looks like you're ruining it. It makes the whole picture. So too, says the commentaries, and that's what God was telling the angels, and that's what God's telling this rabbi. It's a decree in front of you guys cannot understand. It's even beyond the angels' comprehension to see the whole timeline, to see everything that's going on. It's beyond their comprehension, beyond the angels' comprehension. And God explained to them, if you guys want me to stop this, I hear. But if you want me to stop this, I'm going to have to start all over again. Because if I stop this, it's going to ruin the whole balance of the picture. It's going to ruin the whole balance of the painting, and what's going to be later is going to be totally ruined, and it's going to be terrible. What is it? I don't know. I can't even fathom. Sometimes God reveals things to us. September 11th was just not too long ago. It's a couple weeks, a week and a half ago. And plenty of stories out there. I know people that personally have experienced that at the moment when they got stuck and they missed the ferry to go over to Manhattan from Long Island, or their train got stuck in Brooklyn, or their kid got sick that morning. They were cursing out, how can you do this to me? I'm going to be late to work. I'm going to be fired. I have an important meeting. And a mere couple hours later, they were jumping for joy and praising God for making the boat late and making their kid sick. So sometimes God reveals it to us. Sometimes God shows us, right, the full painting. It's not even the full painting. He reveals us how this thing made it beautiful. But other times he doesn't. And even within where he shows it to us, but other people don't see it yet because they were, God forbid, not able, and they were, God forbid, killed, and our family members, and we have to mourn because we can't understand it. We have to believe and we have to understand that there's all a system. The Kriya in front of me, and that's what we're saying. With the power of this slicha, guys, my friends, when you read the slicha, and even if it's skipped, I would encourage you all to read it by yourselves. I don't know what's being skipped. Right? But I encourage you all to read by yourself. When we read this kinos, those words are so powerful. We understand, and we're reminding ourselves, we're saying, right, that we're saying that we have to go ahead and reflect, right, and realize that what's happening in our lives is a microcosm of eternity, of everything. And that, my friends, is building emunah, building relationship. As we said, this whole period of time, every day, but this whole period of time is an idea of building a relationship with God. The avodah, and then the slichot. And we're saying, God, no, we can't fathom, we can't understand. Please forgive us. We're weak. We are limited vision. We have limited ability to see. And that's one of the powers of this prayer that we're saying, the slichot that we're saying. And I'll end with one thing, and I said I'll end with that, and I'll end with one more idea, just in general. Yom Kippur is a day of Mechila Slicha, as we said, as the Kohen Gadol says, Ki Yom Hazeh Chaper Leichem, and the Taraskam. God will forgive us to make us pure. How do we get forgiven? How do we become pure? How do we do this? How do we become pure? Right? How do we grow? How do we do this? And so Kippur, okay, so we fast. Some people have custom wearing a kittel, that's the white robe that we wear. We wear talis all day. We wear talis at night, right? Which we usually don't. Actually, some people in Israel, the Yerushalmis, people that have been living in Israel for a long time, some of them have a custom to wear a talis at night too. Side point, right? Friday night, only Friday night. But we have a custom to wear a talis. So we're becoming more pure, we're becoming more holy. We're asking for forgiveness. But I want to share with you one thought that is within all of our grasps, and I'm talking to myself primarily. Something that's within all of our grasp. Of course, we're going to go through the motions on Yom Kippur, and as we said, it shouldn't be going through the motions. We should think about it, to reflect on it. But one thing that we could all do, we could all talk to ourselves. I spoke about this Rosh Hashanah a little bit also. We could all talk to ourselves. We all can make a cheshbon on nefesh. We can make a calculation, an inventory on our lives. You run a business. You run your kitchen. You make an inventory. Some people are a little more organized, some people are a little less organized. You see what is in the closets. You look what is in stock. You look what you need. How much your office manager. Make sure you have enough photocopy and ink and stuff. Right? You run a big business. Make sure you have all your goods. Your store owner. You make sure you have enough product. You don't want to run out. You don't want to have too much. You have to keep an inventory in your life. So we all have to keep an inventory. We have to make a cheshbon nefesh. We have to keep an inventory in our lives. That is something that's within our grasp. Because that's only I can make. I can make an inventory in your life. We can sit down and I can help you. But I'm only helping you based on what you're telling me. The only person that can make an inventory in your life is yourself. Spouses can make inventory together on their lives. But one spouse can't make an inventory in the other person's life because as much as you know your spouse and you love each other, you're living together for years and hundreds of years, a million years, I don't care how long, you're still your own person. What your thoughts are, what you're doing, what this and that. Cheshbon and nefesh, excuse me, only you can do. It's good. I encourage couples to make a cheshbon and nefesh together too. But we have to make a calculation in our lives. And if we start the process, if we say, hey, God, look, we're starting, we're trying, we're going to start making a calculation in our lives. We might not be able to get through all of it. But we might not even be able to make a complete cheshbon and nefesh. And the cheshbon and nefesh, the calculation, the inventory in our lives constantly in flux. Because as we said, the more you grow, the more you have to hold yourself accountable. You can't be stuck. You can't stay steady. There is no concept of steady in Judaism. You're either going up or you're going down. So what you're working on last year might become more routine. You have to put thought to it, but become more routine. So you have to start working on something else. That's part of Cheshbon Nefesh. Inventory in your life. Let's say you have a health plan, right? You have a health plan, right, for yourself. Right, so you want to lose a little weight, and you want to strengthen your muscles, and you want to become a little more flexible, whatever it is. And so you're constantly changing, right? You're not going to stay the same way 2 years from now as you are now. You hope not, right? And a year from now, you reevaluate. Wow, look, I've lost that much weight. Look, I've been able to lift that much weight. So now let me up the game. Let me change it. Based on what I've done. Oh, that's a little harder. Okay, so I'll still stay there over here. So too in our spirituality, we have to start connecting to our spirituality. We have to make it part of our reality. We have to start thinking about it, not just living it. It's important to live it. And sometimes when we live it, we become complacent. It becomes part of our routine. And again, not taking away from anything that we've grown. And maybe 5 years ago, or a year ago, or 10 years ago, we made a big dramatic change in our lives. And kol hakavod, and I bless you and I praise you, and I'm in awe of anybody that's done that. We all make certain level change in our lives. Some people make tremendous levels. But it doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't keep on growing, or we should become complacent in that. You have to reflect and say, hey, how can I make that a little more? How can I up my game? And in that merit, we start talking to ourselves, we start reflecting, we start making a calculation, we pull out a pad of paper, an iPad, or whatever it is, or just keep it in our brain. Have a way you do it. In that merit, we're showing God that we want to change. Because the first step of Mechila, Kapara, first step of Tshuva, is finding out when I need to do Tshuva on. If I don't know what I have to repent for, I can't repent. If I don't know what I have to change my ways, I can't change my ways. I can say I'm sorry and I'm banging myself. But I don't know what it means. I don't know what I'm changing. I don't know what I need to change. I think I'm perfect. Okay, you want me, God, to bang myself? I'll bang myself. I'm perfect. We have to start thinking about our actions. We have to start reflecting. Again, I'm talking to myself. And in this merit, hopefully, if we start thinking about our actions, we start thinking about what we're doing, God willing, we'll be zocha to have we'll have a good year, a year of health. As we say, Nabinu Malkeinu, Manah, Maged from Nachlaseinu, right? Our Father in heaven, Manah, get rid of the plague that's among us. We said that Nabinu Malkeinu last year. We just read it. Who thought a plague would happen in our times? Manah, Maged from Nachlaseinu, please God, stop this plague that's in our midst. Return ourselves to you. So, in the merit of reflecting, the merit of thinking about our actions, and the merit of really being in tune with yourself, as you said, the internal part, the ani, the kedusha, realizing that we have to put a little more holiness in our lives, looking to change our ways just a little bit, but growing. All Jewish people, make sure that Benadam Chaver doesn't get caught up with it in the way of our kedusha, and vice versa. Our kedusha doesn't get caught up with Benadam Chaver. We have to keep a balance. We should be zoka for ksima, a signing on this Yom Kippur for life, health, spirituality, and just a connection to our Father in heaven, which is the greatest gift that we could ever get. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am going to